Lindsay Mignano here. I'm so glad to have Jason Galick, our senior tax lawyer, here on the line because I have a question that comes up quite often from our founders, and they're usually early stage founders who likely incorporated online on one of the platforms, and they're usually at the time of incorporation solo founders. And maybe they've been operating the business now for a year or two, but finding their hopefully permanent co founder. And we have a whole other video on how you can best protect yourself when onboarding a co founder. But for now, one of the questions that come up tax wise is this one, which is hey, I authorized 10 million common shares at a very low par value. I issued 9 million to myself and I put 1 million in stock plan. I did this through an online incorporation service. So I fully, exhausted my authorized shares at this point. I've been operating for a year. There's no venture funding in the mix. Maybe we have just like minimal angel financing here and there, but something relatively low. And I finally found a co-founder and I want to bring him or her or them on as a co-founder and give them 45%. So instead of having 9 million all issued to me, I'd like to have 45% issued to that co-founder. Can I just transfer it to them like a stock transfer agreement? Is that how we do it? Or should I issue it back to the company and then issue it to her or him or them? What's the best way? And even if I did either way, are there QSBS tax implications here? And we direct our corporate counsel to Jason to make sure that there are tax considerations that are considered and weighed, and that we come up with the best plan to issue that person, that second co-founder, stock that has QSBS benefit attached to it. So, Jason, let's talk a little bit about QSBS, what it is, why it matters to startup founders, and of course, this very question of how do we onboard this second hypothetical co-founder? How do we give him 45% of 9 million shares that have already been issued to the first founder? I'll let you take it from here.
Sure. Thank you, Lindsay. So QSBS is probably the most tax advantaged provision in Internal Revenue Code right now, especially for founders. It's custom built for founders. So after the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, it became even more generous. So currently, you can exclude up to $15 million of gain. If you hold it for a minimum of 3 years, you get 50% of the value. 4 years, you get 75, and then for the full 15 million for 5 years of holding. And then there's some assets that require, so 75 million, and you have to not be a certain type of profession, but most folks that deal with technology don't have to really worry about that. And so, yes, if you qualify for QSBS, it is by far the best tax position you could try to adopt or incorporate into your business. Then one of the things that really hang up a lot of folks is the original issuance requirement. So the stock itself has to be new stock. It can't be sold from an existing shareholder. So in a situation where you have an existing founder with 90% of the shares and he wants to do a rebalancing, then if that founder were to just directly transfer it, it would no longer be eligible for QSBS. So it really has to go back to the company and then from the company to the new shareholder. And, corporate counsel calls this something different. In tax, we call it redemptions. So there are anti-churning rules for redemptions with QSBS. And so if you want to use a redemption to do this, it has to be done very carefully, because if you miscalculate, you could basically taint the whole transfer and it won't be eligible for QSBS. So if it's over 5%, it's considered a substantial redemption. It's not eligible for QSBS. If it fits within the de minimis rules, then and that's ideal if you're going to do one. And the de minimis rules are really intended for fine tuning, but it's both two requirements for the de minimis. It has to be 2% or more of the total share of the stock, and it has to be $10,000 in value. So if those two apply, then you're fine under the de minimis rules. But if you're over that, but not quite over the 5%, there's still a little bit of room, but you're no longer under the de minimis rules. So if you aren't able to fit in that framework, and a lot of folks are just realistically are not going to be able to do that with the amounts they want to move around, it might be another option to do a restructuring or reorganization, because that would allow new issuance to everybody. So there are other ways to do that, but a simple transfer is definitely the worst thing you can do from one shareholder to shareholder. There are other exceptions, and this is part of the stacking strategy that a lot of folks use, but you can make gifts of